I'm Adam Scott. Tonight's Australian story is about one of our country's most iconic sporting stars. This is Greg Norman's story.
Ready? Yeah. All right, check it.
Some people think I'm very guarded and standoffish.
Oh, that didn't get better than what I took.
But once I have you in my inner circle, I'm an extremely loyal guy. But once you cross that line of loyalty and go to the other side, then, you know, I'm very quick to cut people out of my life because I have no time for it, you know.
Oh, you guys have got to get that. You want everything? Yeah. God, man, Jesus. This is like impossible, man.
I always liked him.
We're going to get a professional photographer. Did you get that?
And I thought that a lot of the resentment against him, and there was a fair amount then, was because of his success and because he made it look easy. He was a big, good-looking guy. He looked like he was having a good time.
You nervous, Mr. President? Terrified.
But he was never embraced in a way that some great golfers are.
Okay, Junior, here it comes. Get to work, buddy. Here we go. Hey, customers, what are they doing here? Let's go on the board with you.
He'd have to be the most brilliant golfer Australia's produced, ever. Certainly in terms of just simple net talent, as good as it gets. A marketing man's dream. The golfing public adored him, and rightly so. The wider public, I think, remained to be convincing.
Greg was the original swashbuckler. He sort of swaggered around the world's fairways as though he owned them. People thought sometimes he was up himself, had his chest pushed out like a bantam rooster, that he had his ego was rampant.
I was never an arrogant player or person. Don't have a whole lot of ego. Actually, I can't tolerate people with egos. So I know I don't have an ego. But at the same time, I was very confident about how I could play the game of golf. There wasn't a shot I didn't think I could play because there wasn't a shot I didn't really practice.
The expectation on him to perform was huge, and he carried a lot of weight on his shoulders, I think, for most of his career. He was classy in victory and defeat.
This one candidly might go down as one of the great final round collapses in major tournament history.
Greg had always been bigger than life. He was the headline. It was the world's #1 golfer marrying the world's former #1 tennis player. As famous as him, really.
You both have foot fetishes.
Comes with the flight department.
I know there's a lot of publicity about Greg's personal life with his wives that he's had in the past.
He's an extremely popular man.
Well, I've never lived with a rock star before, so I really don't know.
Love sort of blew his brains in terms of what he could and couldn't see. He didn't want to listen. Does he have regrets? I think everyone's got regrets. But I think he's in a far, far better place today with himself and where his life's going.
Hey.
People think that he's so aggressive and volatile, but actually in private life, he's very calm and he never brings his burdens home, and he's just always even-keeled.
This is what they want to convert right here. Look, I'm a guy now in my stage of my life. I just don't want any dramas anymore. I've had enough dramas in my life, whether it's on the golf course, and good drama and bad drama. I just don't want it anymore.
Golf is a pure test of who you are. I love the fact that you could go out there and the course can be playing easy one day and incredibly difficult the next day when the wind starts blowing, and you have to learn how to manage that because you're not playing the other golfer, you're playing yourself in the course.
It isn't just a matter of skill. Golf becomes a head game. He had the great advantage of knowing quite early what he wanted to do. And he gave himself over to it, mind and body.
It was just the quintessential Queenslander growing up on the beach. I was born in Mount Isa when I was 3 months old. My parents trucked me out of there and we headed to Townsville.
We had a great childhood. It was fantastic. Greg and I both water people, love it. And we had a great family life as kids.
My father built a very small family hut on Magnetic Island, and it's where I learned how to skin dive, spear fish. Then I learned how to sail with my sister. Learned the art of reading the water and reading gusts of wind. And
he didn't like school at all, but one of the teachers was, he used to shake his head. What's going to become of Greg, he says, because he's just not interested in his schoolwork.
Golf wasn't really on my radar screen at all. My mum was a very good golfer. My dad played the occasional game. And one day, I went out and caddied for my mum. And I figured if my mum can play this game, I can play this game, you know, the old macho kid at 15, 16 years old. I kind of just hit a golf ball around and I was hooked. And then I started falling in love with the technical side of the game. What made you swing the golf club around your body in an effortless fashion to develop so much power and club head speed of, 130 miles an hour. In a period of 18 months, I went from a 27 handicap to scratch.
As I first saw him play in 1974, we played at Ryde Parramatta in an interstate junior series, and it's like, wow, this guy's unbelievable. Well, he smashed it. I mean, he just smashed it. He had a great, big, powerful game very early on, and you wonder, I never thought about it, I wonder how much of his personality was shaped around this game that he had.
I know when I started mentioning about turning professional, my family went, whoa, what are you talking about?
You know, as a parent, you've got to think, well, he's got to earn a living. Is he going to earn a living?
But Greg, decided that's what he wanted to do, so we said, okay.
I had to make golf clubs to pass my assistant trainee professional stuff. So there's golf clubs up here I used to hand make from a block of wood. So some of these have a lot of history. You've adapted your set of golf clubs the way you want them yourself personally. So it's your fingerprint, and that's what I loved about it.
21-year-old Brisbane assistant professional Greg Norman, the youngest player ever to represent Australia in the World Cup.
Successful golfers tend to hit their peak when they're sort of in their mid-30s. Along comes this bloke from Queensland who not many people had heard of. Big, strapping boy from Mount Isa, and he won at his third start, the West Lakes Classic, which is almost unheard of. So that kind of announced his arrival, and he was such a sort of fine physical specimen. He had this shock of blonde hair, broad shoulders, big chest, and the crowds warmed to him straight away.
I won, I think it was $7,000, if my memory's right. I thought I was the richest guy in the world.
It was the very next week. He goes to the Australian Open, which was a big deal. It was because Kerry Packer was sponsoring it. All the big stars were there. Packer had brought all the big stars in.
Jack Nicklaus was the greatest figure in the game of golf, and still is. So for Greg, just turned pro, to tee up alongside Jack, which he did, would have been an enormous moment for him.
Cold top my tee shot, absolute cold top. Hit it from me to the camera. It was, I mean, obviously there was thousands and thousands of people around because Jack was Jack and he was the king in those days. And so Jack witnessed it, and he felt for me.
I knew he was nervous. I knew he didn't play well, but that wasn't the important thing. The important thing was I knew that he had a great future.
We sat down in the locker room at the end of the day, and he said, yeah, you'll make it in America.
He went from being a 27 handicap to scratch in less than 2 years. And for him, there's a lot of hope.
He went and played his first season in America, and he dominated. He was winning tournaments from day one. So Greg developed this mid-Pacific drawl as well. He loved America and he wanted to gain acceptance from the American golfing public.
About 35 years ago, my sister was a flight attendant with American Airlines, and she called me one day and she said on the flight she met a young pro golfer who was from Australia.
We met on an airplane. I was a flight attendant, and he was coming back from the '79 U.S. Open.
And there was Laura standing at the front door welcoming all the passengers, and we walk in, we sit down, and I said, I bet I'll marry her. Swear to God. And never even say one word to her, right? And boom.
It's hard for you to believe, but, you know, it's what he said. And then we went out after the flight.
And that was it.
I felt, when I first met him, was actually a bit shy, and I felt like he was genuine, that he really cared about my sister.
What a putt. Oh, I'm a bit choked up here. I can honestly say I am very choked up tonight because I think this is the biggest tournament in my career.
So when I was gallivanting around the world chasing my dreams, it was nice to be able to come back and have somebody there. To have a good partner is crucial for that. And, you know, Laura was very engaging with that. We got married in '81, you know, and again, golf was my priority, and I went on with life.
The 1982 Dunlop Master golfer, Greg Norman, and he goes away with £14,160.
Well, you know, the women always rule with an iron hand, and my wife got onto me and she said I wasn't earning enough big checks, and, you know, she couldn't go out there and buy enough expensive gear, but so she told me to go out there and work on my putting and chipping, so I did, and it paid off.
In the early 80s.
He phoned us and said, I've made my first million.
Yes, but that was just to us. I
just
mean, he
to
didn't,
us, yeah.
Yes, he didn't do it to
no, it wasn't
the worldwide.
To the public,
A man from down under, Greg Norman, known as the Great White Shark, also is in the fight. The shark actually is the loving father of a baby girl, but on the fairways, he has sharp teeth and shows them pearly white.
They built a very strong family bond. Like, I'm so proud of Greg and Laura for what they did and how they brought up those two children.
Hey, get over. Oh, yeah. What do you think?
I think the first impression everyone gets about my dad is that he's really intimidating, because when they see him on the golf course, he's always very focused, and then they might see the little stare he gives just when he's playing golf, but he's really, you know, just such an easy guy and so easy to get along with and joke around with that he's really not that intimidating and scary. Looking back or thinking back on our childhood, I mean, he was definitely gone a lot, but my mom did a really great job of balancing that out and being home when he was gone so we could have that feeling of always having one parent around.
After 32 hours travelling from his match play win in England,
You're a real mommy's boy, huh? Swim. Swim.
It's kind of hard most of the time because he's always away, but you gotta understand it comes with the job.
I remember him coming home from, say, 4 weeks on the road and spending 8 hours on the golf course, practicing all day, coming home, putting until the sun was set.
So it was really an unfair life on them. And that's, you know, when you look back on it, you go, how could I have done it differently? Well, you couldn't have done it differently unless you didn't get married. With my profession, I loved it, so that was my priority. That's where I wanted to go.
Yes. And yet another bonus. He's got some holes still to play, but Greg Norman very much in control here.
He didn't know about playing safe or conservatively. He was attack, attack, attack. He didn't have any second gear. It was full throttle the whole way. Now, that delivered spectacular results at times, and he won early in his career by 6 shots and 8 shots and 10 shots. But it also, being such a high-risk strategy, brought him undone spectacularly.
Only time seemed to separate Aussie from the wearing of his first Masters green. But time proved unkind.
I think Greg was a little bit more of a, I'm going to make this happen rather than letting it happen. And I think that in the end, that'll probably cost you more tournaments than it's going to win you tournaments.
About the only thing that you haven't yet won in world golf is one of the big 4 tournaments. Will 1984 be the year?
Well, I keep saying that every year. I hope it's going to be because, it's nice to go along and win a major. It would be nice, I should say, and I'm looking forward to it. I feel as I have the ability, I have the confidence I can do it.
The currency by which great golfers are decided and valued is how many majors they've won. Major championships. There are 4 a year, a bit like tennis, and they're Grand Slam events.
If you could win any one of the major 4 tournaments, which one would you choose?
The British Open.
Throughout the 1980s, Greg Norman was winning consistently on the hardest circuit of all, the US Tour.
Norman almost made the tournament his own, 1 day early.
But he failed to win any of the 4 major championships, the US Masters, the British Open, the US Open and the US PGA. In contention many times, but didn't quite clinch it.
The United States Open, and Greg Norman is hanging on to a 1-stroke lead as the tournament enters the final round.
A lot of people say, why didn't you win a major?
There's no reason for some of the comments they say out there. He's missed them.
Well, there's a lot of reasons why, because if you've got garbage in your head and things going on in your private life that people don't know about, sometimes you can't be that central focus on the mission that you want to achieve.
In 1986, he became the world's top-ranked golfer for the first time.
And the pressure was on him. Being number 1 in the world and not having won a major was, quite frustrating.
Look out right side. Look out right gallery.
1986 was also the year he led golf's 4 big events, the majors, after 3 rounds. So 3/4 of the way through each of the 4 big tournaments, G. Norman was at the top of the leaderboard.
And Norman now had this to force a playoff. Jack Nicklaus has just won his 6th Masters and 20th major.
It's become known as the Norman Slam. All these near misses started to play on Greg's mind. I mean, he got so close yet so far in all these majors. And he got heckled in 1986, I think it was the US Open.
Norman's only bad drive cost him dearly. One spectator even urged Norman to choke.
Well, the guy was constantly, from about the 10th hole, he was just on my case, just yelling and screaming, abusive stuff.
Now you can hear the crowd. They were yelling for it to be long.
I stopped, and it's amazing how you can pick out somebody you don't even know, and you know that voice came straight from that face, right? So I made a beeline right up there. And now all of a sudden everybody's like, whoa, what is going on here? And I had to release what was in me, right? So I went up to the guy and I said, look, if you want something to say to me, meet me in the car park when I'm finished playing, when I can do something about it. Right, so this guy melted when I said that to him.
These are not the things, the reaction of a golfer sort of in control of his mental state.
You get to a point where enough's enough. So it really left a bad taste in my mouth, to say the truth. I mean, if I won, would it have been different? Maybe. Who knows? But now we're going to be second guessing. But I didn't win.
He goes to the British Open. The course is brutal. It's the hardest setup I've ever seen anywhere by a long way. The fairways are narrow. The rough is like hay, thick, wet, long. Incredibly difficult.
Beautifully struck.
Coming into the British Open, of course, it was another major.
Well, he's led in 2 majors this year, going into the final round, and that's the reason why.
We got up at 11 o'clock and watched the whole thing on television. And because he was under so much pressure the last couple of years while he was #1 and he hadn't won a major tournament, so the pressure was a bit great.
This to take him to 5 under par.
There are a few times in your career when someone shoots a round you can't comprehend.
Supreme confidence.
No one saw anyone being capable of shooting that score.
And Norman? Well, suddenly he begins to look vulnerable. Over the space of 5 holes, he drops 3 shots and leads by just 2 from Nakajima, who's 1 over now.
And distracted, a little noise, a movement, something in the crowd has made Mr. Norman look very cross indeed. I wonder if it's wise. No, it stops in heavy rough, some 70 or 80 yards short of the green. Is he just beginning to lose it at the crucial moment?
And when Greg started going backwards on that second day, we thought, oh, well, here we go. But, you know, get into it, Greg, and keep going.
Greg Norman's in trouble here. An awkward spot in the bunker. Well, the gods are surely smiling on him today. If he doesn't win this one, well, questions will be asked and letters written to the Times as to why.
Greg holds the bunker shot at the 3rd hole.
Things going very much his way.
And it's pretty much all over. He's the best player in the world. He's flying. Here it is.
Oh, tremendous hit from the rough.
But it's a procession. Hits great shots. Hits the flag at 14.
It really is very much Greg Norman's day.
The last night of the British Open was absolutely incredible. It was quite exciting, quite exciting.
I wonder what he's thinking now. He's waited a long time.
That was just, I couldn't believe it. It was just so surreal. And I still can see him walking down the fairway.
Misty eye.
You know, that is the best of the best to win.
Just listen to this.
It was amazing how they just went round and followed him in to the last green.
Especially when you're a handful of strokes ahead. He'll ride in like a gladiator of old. And it is a bit of a steady through.
Sure child out there, and to us it was the result of all the effort that he'd put in over the years, and the result came up.
A great victory for Greg Norman. He's waited a long time. Many doubters wondered whether he would, whether he could do it. He certainly has, and I wonder how many more times we'll see scenes like this.
Wins easily. So that was, yeah, that was the, there it was. That was a long time coming, and he played like he played in Australia. He just blew everyone away.
He's removed the one flaw in his otherwise outstanding record. He's won a major.
He was so thrilled about the win, he gave us the British Open trophy, so I have it inside. So. And because hopefully he said he was hoping to win another one.
The unsaid assumption, I suppose, was that once he wins one, he's going to win a lot. I think his destiny was to win 10 major tournaments. So the question is, when's he going to win the next one? And how many is he going to win?
And what happened is that Norman, through the sort of extraordinary freakish shots almost of his opponents, Norman was denied again.
Fast forward to the PGA Championship, and you got Bob Tway, right? And he holds the bunker shot.
That is the shot of Bob Tway out of the bunker. It's in the hole! It's in the hole! This for the tie. It's all over. Bob Tway has won the PGA Championship at age 27.
The next major, Larry Myers, at the US Masters, chipped in from an impossible position, 140 feet from the pin.
How's that look?
I never expected Larry to chip it in. You know, I didn't even look at his shot until it was halfway down the green. But when I hit the flag and dropped in, you know, it was like I had to regroup big time because I'd never heard a noise like that in my life, because you're in like an amphitheater there. You could feel the energy and the atmosphere, like, oh, God. So it was just incredible. Even when I was over the putt, now everybody's thinking, oh my God, we thought he was going to win, now he's going to lose.
Norman could still conquer. He needed this putt to win. That's it! Larry Myers, the 1987 Masters champion.
Well, Australia woke up every Monday morning sweating on these golf tournaments that here was Greg in the lead again. And I mean, how many times did kids go to school like gutted because the hero had lost again, you know?
If ever there was a man that had the right to shake his fist at the bitter sporting gods who have done me down, it was Greg Norman. I mean, two guys more anonymous than a wrong number hit shots they've never hit before or since to deny him his rights.
I could have won the Slam, or I could have won 4 tournaments if it wasn't for these circumstances that the game of golf decides to roll the dice and it goes against you. And you learn that, okay, expect the unexpected.
Everybody could identify with what happened to him at the Masters.
President Clinton slipped on the steps of Greg Norman's Florida home.
Monica Lewinsky was not there. I didn't fly her in like everybody thought I did at the time.
He was sports answer to Tom Cruise with Oprah Winfrey jumping up and down on the couch.
When he rang me and said, sis, guess what? Chrissy and I are split. I jumped around the house going, hallelujah!
He spent a lifetime pulling knives out of his back.
Adam Scott. Yes, come on, Aussies.
There was one guy who inspired a nation of golfers, and that's Greg Norman. Greg was the guy that paved the way for us. Part of this definitely belongs to him.